Hello chess friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to have a look at a chess tactic which is called as destroying the guard. It is also known as annihilation of defense. Basically, what you have to do is in a very direct way, you have to eliminate the defender, and there are various names for this. So destroying the guard, annihilation of defense, or destroying the defender is also some names of it. So we're going to have a look at 10 excellent examples of this. They're attacking examples, they're sacrificial examples, and you're going to love this. So this is the first puzzle we have. It's white to play. This is actually a game from Petrosian. It's Petrosian versus Ivkov, a very famous game. White to play and win the position, win the game over here. Find out who is the defender who's defending the position for black and eliminate the defender in order to win the game. So go ahead, pause the video, and try to find the move, the excellent move that white played over here. Alright, so Petrosian in this position realized that the bishop is actually the defender of the e5 pawn. If the bishop was not there, there is a checkmate which is possible. So he first eliminated with his famous, of course, with his famous exchange sacrifice. Rook takes bishop, and now it's basically all over. Game is all over already. Because let's say what happens if he captures. There are multiple ways to capture. If c takes, then we have rook takes pawn. The king cannot step out. The king cannot capture thanks to the knight. The only square is g4 to capture on g4. Now there are two checkmates, whichever you prefer, h3 or f3. Both are checkmates. Going back in the same position, he can also take with the e pawn. Doesn't really make a change because of check. Again, capture and f3 or h3 is a mate. Lastly, there is also rook takes, which again results into rook takes pawn and f3 or h3. Both are mate. So in this position, after the move rook into d4, basically Ivkov resigned. He doesn't really have to capture the rook as well. But if you go by, for example, if you just escape, then I'm going to capture. That's a check. King steps out. Takes. Takes. Just capture. There are multiple threats over here. You can see we have an extra knight. We have extra pawns. We have two extra pawns. And there are obviously so many threats over here that it's pretty much easily winning for white. So let's jump on to our next example. Alright guys, here's the second example, a very good one. So you can see white superiority over here is very clear. Every single piece of white is better than every single piece of black. But of course, we still have to finish the game. And that can be done by eliminating the defender of the h6 square. So who defends the h6 square? How do we eliminate it? It's white to play, win the game. So go ahead, pause the video and try to find the move, the stunning move that white played over here. Alright guys, so the move is of course a queen sacrifice, queen takes on g7. It's always a great feeling when you end the game with a queen sacrifice. Of course, now this is the only way to capture this is with the knight, because the knight covers this. So knight takes, and here comes the point. Knight to h6 is a checkmate. Knight gives a check, covers the square. Bishop covers the escape square, and the rook. The rest of the squares are taken care of by the rook. So this was the excellent checkmate. All you have to do when you have such a superiority in positional in positional placement, all you have to do, find the defender, eliminate the defender, and win the game. All right, so let's jump on to our next example. Before we do that, let me just explain you how this kind of tactic works. Basically, you'll have to look out for two things: who is the defender, and how do we eliminate it. So that's all the two things you have to take care about in every single position. You have to spot the defender, and once you spot it, find ways to eliminate it, and the rest is pretty easy. All right, let's jump on to a third example now, a great one. This somehow reminds me of a game which I saw, which I studied. It is a game of Tal. For some reason, this is very similar to the game of Tal, but of course the king position is different. Still, the solution remains very symmetrical. So white to play and destroy the guard. First of all, spot the guard. Secondly, destroy the guard and give a checkmate to the black king, which is right in the center, waiting to be mated. So white to play, win the game. Alright guys, you might have noticed that our pawn actually covers two very important squares, d7, f7. Our bishop covers all the rest of the squares. All we need to do is give one check and that's game over. And you might think bishop b5 looks like the obvious check, but the problem is then c7 and everything is guarded. The bishop covers the c7 square. So you can see the main defender in the position is actually the bishop and the pawn, and both of them, actually it is, I would say, the pawn The major defense is the pawn on c7. If we can eliminate that, a checkmate is possible. And I'm pretty sure you must have all guessed the move. It is knight takes on c7, check, bishop takes, and as there is no pawn on c7, now we can go bishop to b5, check, and wonderful mate. That's a beautiful mate. He can no longer block with the pawn on pawn to c6. That was the idea. Let's jump on to our third example. Pardon me, fourth one. So this is the fourth example, really good one. It teaches us a lot about attack. Whenever attacking, always look at soft spots, or as we can call them as targets. Always look out the targets and you will know how to gain the initiative. Targets is always equal to initiative. So what are the targets in black position? I would say the pawn on g7 is a big target. And if we can try to attack the pawn on g7, it can create some really huge threats and it gives us initiative, obviously. So like always, go ahead, pause the video, try to find the stunning move that white played over here. All right, here we go. Queen to g5. An excellent move attacking the g7 pawn. Basically, we are forcing him to push forward, which creates several weaknesses. You know, the target, the g7 pawn was a target, but if he goes forward, which he does, there are more targets created. Now the entire dark square complex is weak. In fact, every single square of the dark square around the king is weak, and we can perfectly exploit this. The first move we play here is knight e7 check. Now you know if the king goes to h8, let's find out who is the defender and how do we eliminate him. So queen f6 is something you would really like to play with the checkmate, but then you notice that the knight is actually a defender, and it's a very simple way to eliminate the knight. Simply rook takes, and now no matter how he captures, he can capture with the bishop, with the queen, doesn't really matter. Let's say queen takes. There is queen f6, a direct checkmate. Alright, but of course, you might ask, in this position after the knight gives a check, he doesn't have to go in the corner. In fact, he can play king to g7. What should we do now? In fact, it's not much of a difference. You would still want to invade on the dark squares, and the way to do it is first eliminate the defender. So, rook takes, again sacrificing the exchange. Doesn't really matter how he captures with the bishop or with the queen. We're gonna continue with queen over to f6. That's a check. G8 square is covered by the knight, so king has to step out. And here comes the very difficult move to spot. Rook to f5, and this is totally winning. Either you have to give up the queen, in which case you are still losing, of course. But let me just show you what's the threat. For example, queen over here, king here, and now you will know that rook h5 is unstoppable mate. So that is a beautiful threat using the pin over here, exploiting the pin. But you might ask, let's have a look at queen takes. But then the problem is, of course, knight takes, and that would be checkmate, instant checkmate thanks to the pin over here. So wonderful example and very difficult move to spot. Specifically, the rook f5 and rook h5 idea is not very easy. If you have spotted, you're definitely great tactician. All right, let's jump on to our next example now. So this is the next one. In this one, you can see black has a lot of threat himself. He would very much like to go queen g1, and then after, let's say, king h3, then queen h1, queen h2, and something like rook e3 or even rook d3. Rook d3, of course. Rook d3 is actually winning for black. So you can see white is in a lot of trouble. White has to react very quickly. So white to play, win the game, find out who is the defender, and how can we create a non-stop unbeatable attack. All right, here comes the move. You might realize we can destroy the guard, we can destroy this pawn chain and create an unstoppable attack. But until we remove the defender, it's not possible. So let's remove the defender. The bishop is the defender. So rook takes on e8, first move. That's a check. We'll obviously capture. Now comes rook into g6. It's a very good move. We are basically asking him to make a choice. If he goes here, then bishop f6 and is totally crushing. So of course he's tried king f7 over here. Now rook f6, and this is a tactical idea. You force the king to go back either here or either here. Of course he can't go over here, because in that case rook takes a6, discovered check, and wins the queen, totally crushing. So of course he has to go back. Let's say king g7 is also possible with king g8, very similar to each other. King g8 provides more chance of defense because the queen can interfere. Now you have bishop h4 check. This is more or less over. If queen blocks, rook g6 wins. If the king goes in the corner, then rook h6 is the winning move. You just block and this is totally winning. For example, this, and you don't even need to capture the queen. Bishop f6 is made. So you can see all you had to do was eliminate the defender, and then you have a very strong attacking chances. All right, let's have, so this was the move over here. Rook takes on e8, understanding who is the defender, eliminating it, and then going for a crushing attack. And we never gave him the chance to attack, to counter attack us. We just kept attacking him constantly. Every single move was a check. That's the key to attacking. All right, let's jump on to our next example now. Here comes a sixth example with full of sacrifices. Black's last move was pawn to f4 to f3. He has just pushed his pawn forward, which actually is a huge mistake, and white can exploit here. So find out who is the defender in black's position, eliminate the defender, and give a crushing attack. All right, because of this move, pawn to f3, the queen's diagonal has been opened up, and you can see the bishop is the only piece that's holding on the king side, and there is a way to destroy the guard. So how do we destroy the guard? We eliminate the bishop. So queen takes h6, wins the game. If king takes, of course, then rook h4 is an instant checkmate thanks to both of our rooks. This is game over. He has to take with the pawn. In that case, rook g7 check, king h8, and now you might say, well, we don't have enough attacking pieces, we don't have enough material, but there we go. Bishop to g8. The bishop was, of course, hiding on a2, always ready to come in the game. Now, of course, the threat is just to go rook h7 checkmate, and even this cannot be captured. For example, if you take, this is a very beautiful box mate. I'm not sure if it's called as box mate. It's a double rook mate, definitely. Going back in this position, he doesn't have to capture the bishop. He can. I turned on the engine in this position. I thought, what can even black do over here? And it turns out that black has very funny moves. He can go for desperation, queen sacrifice. All right. Now comes rook sacrifice. Now comes another rook sacrifice. Basically, engine just tries to make the game, prolonging the game, but at the end there is a checkmate, which is unavoidable, of course. So here comes the stunning move. Queen takes on h6. This is a very important move. First you eliminate the defender. The rest is pretty much child's play. But of course, you still need to be precise in calculation. Finding the move bishop g8 was, I think, the most important thing over here. Because once you find this move, you will notice that rook h7 is unable, is a threat which cannot be avoided or stopped. Excellent example. Let's jump on to a seventh example with full of sacrifices. You can see black here is superb over here. His pieces placement is very good, and the white king is already nearly opened up, and his king side is nearly scattered. So all you have to do is destroy the guard. Who is the guard? Find out what can we attack and which are the targets, and then exploit it. Black to play and win the game. Alright, you might have spotted some particular things over here, that the h2 pawn is extremely weak, it's severely weak. That's a target. That's one target we have. And the way to attack it is play bishop to e5. If you have gone through this process of finding this move bishop e5, then that would be great. You're doing excellently already, but then you might have also noticed that the problem is he can play pawn to f4, in which case there is an attack on our bishop, there is an attack on this bishop, and there might be some exchanges which we don't like, and whenever attacking we should avoid exchanges, and white might get out of it alive. So understanding that the pawn on f3 is actually the defender, you have to eliminate it. How do we eliminate it? It's pretty child's play. You have to play a bishop takes on f3. That's a check. If the king steps out, then just queen g4, queen g2 is mate, of course. It's already a mate. Yeah, it's already a mate. There's no queen g2 mate. It's already a mate, right? So bishop takes f3. He's going to capture back with his bishop. And now you see the pawn on f3 is no longer there. He can't really push forward anymore. So bishop to e5. Finally, we attack the target and the game is over. In fact, again, I checked out this with engines. It's very funny what kind of moves the engine suggests. Engines are suggesting moves like capture on d6, give up the queen, give up the bishop, prolong the battle for, I don't know why, prolong the battle for some reason. But actually, it's game over pretty much, because takes and takes. This is the only logical continuation that white should go to avoid the humiliation, of course. So great idea. Again, all you have to do was spot the problem. The problem was the pawn on f3. He was the defender, and then you have to find a way to eliminate it. Bishop takes f3 and bishop e5 does exactly that, attacking the target. with an unstoppable checkmate threat. All right, let's have a look at our eighth example. So you must be used to the idea now. Find the defender, eliminate the defender. Also find the targets which are potential weaknesses in which you can attack the weaknesses, and by attacking the weaknesses you gain initiative. That's the way Tal used to play. Look at the weaknesses and find out ways to attack it. Here you would notice that the pawn on h2 is actually a weak pawn. Is black to play, of course, this position. It's a very weak pawn on h2, and that can be attacked. Of course, who's the defender? Knight on f3. How do we attack it? It's pretty simple. So go ahead, pause the video and try to find the entire combination for black. Okay, there you go. First move, everyone have, even the childrens would have guessed this move. Pretty easy. So 1 point if you have found this. G takes, and now comes the main move. This is the main vulnerable point. It's a weakness, it's a target. How do we attack it? This over here. But again, you have to calculate what happens if he takes a knight. Now that's the main line, of course. So let's calculate that. In that case, queen takes, king goes over there, queen f3 check. Again, doing everything with tempo. These are intermediate moves. Goes over here, and finally just bishop h3. Everything happened with tempo. White never got a chance to defend, and there's an unstoppable mate happening on g2. That is winning. Going back in this position, after the move queen h4, he can also play h3. You take, destroyed the defender, takes. Now you can see the king is totally naked, totally opened up, and there is a pretty simple way of winning the game. If over here, then that is a big problem. Then you can simply win the game. Even by capturing the pawn is fine. I think there are multiple ways. Queen h3 is also good, but just taking the pawn, let's say takes over here, then just queen h4, king g1, and bishop h3. Pretty much over. We attack the rook. Queen g4 and queen g2 is coming. Even if you defend this position, it's pretty much you're gonna lose material. The bishop is hanging as well. If the queen tries to defend, it's a very, very bad position for white. So going back, of course, in this position, after takes, king h1 was played. Now you take, again inviting the bishop, always getting more and more attacker in the game. Rook g1 is not possible, by the way, because of queen h3 instant mate. You must know this popular checkmating pattern. So the bishop wants to come over here. Now let me go back. After takes, he can play f3, trying to get the queen in. This is the most accurate move. But then check, queen blocks, take extra piece, and you're a very healthy piece up. Just takes. You can see this is 1 2 3. You have 3 pieces and multiple pawns. There are so many pawns you have. We are attacking the rook. This is a great position. This move can come. This is just too good position for us to play. It's basically -5 if you turn on the engine. That's how much you're winning over here. You can always defend your pawn. You can always grab the knight. You can always push the pawn and try to create a lot of threats over here. Of course, so let's jump on to our last example. So here's the last example, and last one is the best one. It's black to play. White's last move was knight from f2 to e4. He has brought the knight to e4, but this is a huge, severe mistake. And black can play crushing move, which totally wins the game. So black to play and win the game. This is the toughest one. I want you to calculate, focus, calculate, and find the best move for the best combination for black. Okay, you might have noticed the defending the position is actually, you would very much like to play, by the way, knight g3. Very much like to play because this diagonal is controlled. And knight g3, pawn takes is winning. But of course, the problem is he has played his knight to e4 for a reason, and the reason is he's guarding the g3 square. So knight is a defender, and there's one piece which can capture the defender. That's the queen. Queen takes knight is the answer. Let's have a look at multiple moves over here. There are like a lot of moves. Pawn takes, and then we play knight g3 check. If the queen captures the knight, we don't even need to capture the queen because there is check and back rank mate. Of course, he has to capture with the pawn, but in that case, a rook on h8 opens up, pawn takes, queen has to block, and that is a checkmate. What a checkmate. All right, going back in this position, after we sacrifice the queen, he can also take with his queen, but then again, knight check, king is unable to go anywhere because of the bishop, and takes. This is game over thanks to our rook over here. What else can you try? Well, engines are suggesting moves like bishop e3. Very bad moves, I would say. But then that you just exchange and grab this. and you are winning, or even with the bishop. It's fine. Everything wins. Just about everything wins over here. Knight takes, and even take this and push forward. Everything wins over here for black. What else can be done over here in this position? Pawn takes. I think we have seen this. No, we haven't. Oh yeah, we have. Knight g3 wins the game over here. Simple, easy peasy win for black. You can see the answer was very pretty move. Queen takes on e4. Understanding who is the defender, who is exactly defending and what squares, and then trying to eliminate it is the key for attacking in such kind of positions. So hope you enjoyed this series of uh, attack, the series of destroying the guard. This tactic is called as destroying the guard, or also known as annihilation of defense. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel. More such videos are on the way with great examples. See you guys. Bye.